Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara on Wednesday declared that he remained in charge of the state affairs, saying his enemies and those of the state will continue to crash. Fubara, who has been in the eye of the storm since October 2023, when he fell out with his predecessor and the political godfather, Nyesom Wike, said his faith remained in God amid the raging political battle. He spoke at the crossover into 2025 church service held at St. Paul's Anglican Church, Opobo Down, in the Opobo Nkoro local government area in the early moments of January 1. He said, "The red biro is still filled. It is here with me. Every plan of the enemy will continue to crash." George, what do you make of this story in view of everything that is going on in Rivers State?
Thank you very much. First thing first, let me say that it is very wrong for the governor to say he's still in charge. The question one we want to ask is, who has been in charge since 2023 when he took over the reins of government of Rivers State? Was he trying to tell us that he was not in charge? So for me, that statement does not make any meaning.
But he didn't say, "I am in charge." He said, "I am still in charge," meaning that he has always been in charge.
No. He has always been. When he said he's still in charge, well, for me, what I understand is that issues at some point made him not to be in charge. That's my understanding.
Okay.
That's my understanding of what he's trying to say. Because crisis came up at some point that would have led to his impeachment due to some, issues that ordinarily should not have happened. He, as a governor, did not act well in some areas. He went outside the law to act and all of that. So the assembly called for his impeachment. Somehow there was resolution. But beyond that, the issue escalated. So when he said he's still in charge, for me, it shows that at some point he was not in charge. So after the crisis that rocked the state, that was when he began to, take
charge.
Yeah, began to be in charge of the affairs of the state. For me, it's a wrong statement because he has been the governor since 2023. The issue is simple. Let the governor of Rivers State act in accordance with the provisions of the law. I don't understand who he's calling the enemy of state. Enemy of what state? When someone who is doing wrong feels that he's not doing wrong, and those who are trying to call him to order, he now sees them as the enemy. For me, it doesn't make any meaning. Nobody ordinarily will want to be an enemy of the state. A state where you live in, this is politics. And in politics, it entails, people angling for one or two. So in the course of angling, provided they are doing it within the ambit of the law, there's nothing wrong with that. He has refused, to work with the constituted assembly for a very long time now. And for him, he sees that as the right thing. And those assembly members, he now sees them as the enemies of the state. And people will sit there to clap over this. Nobody will tell him, Your Excellency, this is not the democracy we preached for. This is not the democracy we called for. We are not running a government, that is based on rule of might, where one man has all the powers and because of that, to his whims and caprices, he decides what happens. No, we have laws. We have laws that guide the operations of, government in a democratic setting. And the assembly, which is the legislature, is one of those arms of government, that has powers to make laws, and they also have oversight functions on the executive arm of the government. The governor of Rivers State has refused, to work with them. I don't want to use the word recognize because it is not in his powers to recognize or de-recognize.
But he said he has de-recognized them.
That's what I'm saying. That is part of the lagging statement he's making. It is not in his powers to recognize or de-recognize anybody. Elected, duly elected, the same way he was elected. This guy, you can only de-recognize someone you appointed. You have the powers to appoint, fire and, hire and fire. If the person does not meet the standard that you expect of him, you can fire, but not an elected person. There are procedures of recalling an elected person through the constituent members of that constituency. People can recall their members, not you as a guy who was elected the same way these other people were elected, we recognize or de-recognize. The only place he has power is to proclaim the assembly that was given to him by the Constitution. Huh?
To inaugurate.
That is a proclamation.
Okay.
You understand? To proclaim them immediately after he was sworn in as the governor. You know, 2 or 3 days after, you proclaim, you know, giving them that status as, you know, assembly members. After that, you do not have any such power over them again. You don't have such powers. But where they come together to work, you as the governor, you can have harmonious relationship with the assembly. You send some executive bills, they will expedite actions and ensuring that it becomes a law and things like that. Those things can work, you know, through lobbying. It's part of democracy. You understand? But not when you as a governor say you have to recognize them based on one or no, you don't have such powers. You don't have, you cannot be executive and be judiciary at the same time.
But so far, the governor, one would say he has actually shown to a large extent that he's in charge, because from the time he said he has recognized the Martins Amehule-led River State House of Assembly, he has gone ahead to act with, you know, Edison here, then Okojombo. He has been working with them even up until date. You recall that on 31st of December 2024, he presented the budget to the Okojombo-led faction. What do you have to say to that?
I think this whole thing lies, the challenge lies with the judiciary. The judiciary have only backed, but they have not beaten, you know.
What can the judiciary do?
No. What I'm saying is that you give a judgment and you allow your judgment to be flouted by the executive arm.
Allow the judgment?
Yeah, they allow it.
Is it the judiciary that will implement that judgment?
The implementation of the judgment will have to come with the executive. Now, this is a case that is against the executive who does not want to allow. I think the judiciary should go further. They should go further to make some kind of proclamation.
Like what?
That will force. They should know. I think there is something they can invoke. Within I'm not a lawyer to understand, but I believe that the judiciary have something to invoke when their laws are not obeyed. When their decisions, the judgments they give are not obeyed. I think there is something they can invoke.
The governor has immunity, you know that.
No, not against the governor per se.
How do you enforce judgment on a governor?
My dear, the judiciary, are you saying that because there is no way to enforce this judgment, therefore judiciary is just a lame duck? They just can make a judgment and it will not be effective?
Is it in the position of the judiciary to implement?
No, implementation has to do with executive. Implementation of laws, policies has to do with executive. Now, this is a judgment against the same executive that should implement, and they have refused to implement that. I think, there was a time in this country, sorry, let me just deviate a bit, when the country came into a kind of quagmire following the death of late President Yar'Adua. You know, due to some sinister moves here and there by the powers that be at the time, they refused to hand over power to his then vice, who, as at that time, was Goodluck Jonathan. For whatever reason, you know, it was the National Assembly, you know, sat and invoked the doctrine of necessity. Even though the man did not transmit power to his vice before he went on that, you know, trip, that he did not come back, the National Assembly looked at the provisions of the Constitution and knew that if we don't do this, we'll run into a conundrum. What did they do? They invoked, there is a provision somewhere, one way or the other, I may not have, you know, but I know there is something that can be done. You know, they invoked that doctrine of necessity to ensure that Jonathan became the vice. So in this case, where, you know, judiciary has given their judgment against an executive who has refused to implement that, you know, judgment, maybe the federal government, through the Attorney General, yes, the governor has, you know, immunity.
The federal government, through the Attorney General, will do what exactly? To
implement some of these things, you call the police. You cannot, see, okay, imagine where they issue a warrant of arrest on the purported speaker that is being paraded as a speaker. Would he be there to sit to receive the budget? I mean, we cannot continue this way.
So now, okay, you're looking at probably, if I may understand what you're saying now, at the end of the day, you're talking of issuing an arrest, you know, for the purport to arrest the purported speaker. Yes. Now, that still boils down to the legislative arm But we are talking about disobedience to court order or court judgment by the executive who is enjoying immunity. You know, you were blaming the judiciary that the executive is not obeying orders of the courts or judgment of the courts. And I'm asking you, what else do you want the judiciary to do? They have done their part. They have done their bit. It is now left for, you know, the persons involved to obey court orders or court judgments. And in a situation where the person does not, in this instance, you know, the governor of Rivers State, and he is enjoying immunity, what would you have the judiciary do? At the end of the day, you are now saying through the attorney, there could be a warrant of arrest issued, you know, for the arrest of the purported speaker.
Laurentia, what I'm trying to say here, what I'm trying to say, the governor has immunity against arrest. The speaker, the purported speaker, does not have immunity against arrest. Now, the governor couldn't have presented the budget to himself, pass it, the appropriation bill, pass it into law by himself. He needed the assembly, in line with the provisions of the constitution, to make that a law. So because there were persons who have accepted to play along, I'm talking about the purported speaker and the other two, who have agreed to play along, making the governor feel that he has everything going for him. Imagine where these persons who have refused, if the judiciary has given some kind of, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I may not really understand the right word, but if they have given some kind of order, arresting the man who has been, you know, claiming to be, who have been impersonating the position of the speakership. The
judiciary cannot grant what you did not. The court cannot grant you what you did not pray for it to grant you.
I agree. Now, these are some. You see, the judgment they have given over time, the executive arm of government, especially in the case of Rivers State, has refused to abide by it. Yes, I agree that the judiciary or the judge cannot give you what you did not pray for. But it's a slight on them at this point that their pronouncement. What that means is that nobody regards them as part of the government. Because whatever their judgment should be weighty, should be law. Because it's interpretation of the law. But unfortunately, there's an arm that seems to be bigger. Keep relegating them. Then I think something should be done. Like I said, I may not have the right word to say, but I know that judiciary can go to an extent to invoke certain things to...
Probably this falls back to, I think probably you should be looking at the legislature. You know, it is the job of the legislature has oversight functions on the executive as well.
Impeachment is one of those. Impeachment is one of those things to correct the anomalies. I agree with you. But for now...
not mention impeachment.
No. It's one of those oversight functions that the legislature have. It's a tool. Impeachment is a tool on the hands of the legislature, you know, to ensure checks and balance. You might say it's an extreme, but you can see that the governor is going extremely, you know, to secure his own part as against what the provisions of the law, you know, is. So if it means, you know, if it requires going to that extreme, there's no problem about that. But the challenge here now is, you know, the court process is still on, you know. The finality of the matter has not been heard because this has gone to Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter on the matter. If that decision was reached, as the decision of the court was reached by the Supreme Court, I am quite certain that by now, the governor wouldn't be speaking this way. You know, things would have changed. But because the matter is still in court, so he still believes that he can get judgment from the court. That's why he's acting this way. So for now, I will not blame the judiciary much because, you know, the matter has not gotten to the final stage. Let's wait until Appeal Court gives their final verdict on the matter.
Appeal Court or Supreme Court?
Huh? Supreme Court, sorry. Let's wait for Supreme Court to give their final verdict on this matter. We will now know whether he's as strong as he, you know, claims to be. You know, refuses to abide by the judgment of the court. Okay.
Now, now that things are at this point where it is in Rivers State, and with both parties or the warring factions not backing down, not inching at this point. Do you, with everything, you know, I was to a large extent, I was hoping that, yes, I was expecting that 2025 in Rivers State will be a very interesting time. It will be a very interesting year, but I was not expecting that it will start this early. You know, it will start from in fact, from 31st. When I saw that move, I was like, okay, so no rebate at all, you know, in this political crisis in Rivers State. Now, how do you see this playing out? I am looking at the implications of this move by the governor, considering that there have been judgments of the lower courts, of the high court, and judgment of the appeal court affirming Martin Samehule. And as it stands, there is no judgment that has set aside the speakership of Martin Samehule, and there is no judgments that have declared their seats vacant and called for INEC to conduct an election. And by that judgment, the governor is mandated to, you know, govern with this House of Assembly. What is the implication of this move by the governor presenting the 2025 budget to the same House of Assembly that appropriated the other 2024 budget that is still under litigation?
You know, the lifeline that the governor has is that the matter is still pending at the Supreme Court, where any decision reached there will be final. You know, this problem have come to a height where it's a win-win, it's a winner-takes-all situation. So nobody wants to back down. Okay. Like you said earlier, you know, the governor will feel...
When you say winner takes it all, what do you mean?
You know, it's two warring factions, all going for the jugular. All going for the prime, you know, all going for that seat, going for one thing, which is the most important thing. Now, the thing, ordinarily, before now, there was some kind of discussion to resolve the matter amicably so that everybody will work, you know, in harmony and enjoy whatever that comes from it. But unfortunately, one part reneged on the agreement. So that has lingered, that has continued to linger the problem till date. So the point we have reached now is a point of no return, where winner takes it all. If those with the governor wins the battle at the Supreme Court, you know, they take over the reins of government completely, the structure of government. And if those in support of the minister, you know, Martin Samehule and all of that, decide if they win the matter, those on the other side will lose completely. At the point we are now, there is no longer room for reconciliation. That's exactly what I meant by that.
Okay.
You know, so the governor is acting the way he's acting because the matter is still pending before the Supreme Court. He has gone to the Supreme Court.
But isn't that the more reason why the governor should be circumspect?
That's what I'm telling you, that, you know, as a man...
So that would now, you know, pray the question. What exactly is going on? Where is the confidence coming from?
No, I wouldn't know. Anything is just possible in Nigeria. But backing down at this point would be like a kind of crestfallen for his supporters. If he backs down at this point, both him and the supporter will be seen as weak people. That's why at that early stage...
So this is ego at play.
You cannot take ego away in politics.
As against the rule of law?
That's, for now, he still has a lifeline, which is, you know, the Supreme Court. He still believes that he can win.
Okay.
Based on, you know, the advice he has gotten from both lawyers and non-lawyers, from his own common sense also, as someone who is educated, he would have checked one or two in line with the books to say, okay, we still stand a chance of winning. Based on that, he continues to act. And, you know, non-presentation of budget as at when due is also an impeachable offense. So because he has refused to recognize working with, you know, the constituted assembly led by Martin Samehule, instead of not being here nor there, he decided to go, let the illegality continue until Supreme Court, you know, give their verdict. If it is in our favor, we'll continue. If it is not in our favor, let the worst case happen. That's at this point, that is where we are. Ordinarily, based on that law, you know, the judgment of appeal courts, some persons would have said, okay, this fight is as good as, you know, over. Let me see how I can reconcile with these people so that we can work together. But frankly speaking, the problem have reached a level where it has surpassed reconciliation. Reconciliation is no longer feasible. This thing is becoming like the war between the Jews and the Palestine. That is Israel and Palestinian war. That is the oldest unresolved conflict in the world.
At this point, are we not driving to anarchy in Rivers State?
That the only people who will save the situation is the Supreme Court. And they need to act as quick as possible because there is a limit. There's a limit to how one can, withstand some of these issues. So the Supreme Court need to give a judgment. Let's know if it is here or there. Let them give their judgment so that everybody will fall in line.
Whichever way this judgment goes, do you see breakdown? Because my concern at this point is the way everything is going. If one is following certain things and certain moves, one may think, okay, probably some things are being aligned and realigned. The question would be, do you see possible breakdown of law and order? Because that has, in fact, at the forefront of my worries, this is the major thing. Loss of life. It appears that Rivers State is like a keg of gunpowder. And if care is not taken, it might explode. I will not be doing myself good by sitting here to say in all confidence that there will not be breakdown of law and order. I will not also say there will be. But what I'm certain is that the government has, the instrumentality of force to quell any breakdown of law and order. Okay.
Some persons may want to cause problem, like it's normal for those who, the judgment will go against, may want to foment one or two trouble. But I'm quite certain that the government at the national level has the instrumentality of force. When I mean force to quell any form of, insurrection that will come as a result of someone saying that the judgment did not favor me. No, nobody will do. We are not in a banana republic. We are still running a government that has all what it takes, to maintain law and order in our nation. So if the judgment goes either way, those that want to foment trouble will definitely hear from the federal government of Nigeria.
And at that point, wouldn't there be allegations of the federal government backing the FCT minister?
It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that as long as the Supreme Court has given a judgment, it doesn't matter who the judgment favors.
No, you don't know.
Allegations, people will keep allegations.
Hold on. We are now looking at, because this thing will now drag back to the Presidential Peace Pact, where there were reservations around, what was in the Peace Pact, the 8 points in the Peace Pact. And there were concerns that it did not favor the governor. And it favored more of the camp of the FCT minister. Now, if what you're saying happens, people will now say, to a large extent, I am concerned that there might be allegations that, okay, the federal government at this point in time is trying to protect the FCT minister and his camp. Don't you see that playing out as well?
That will hold no water. Somebody can sit wherever and level allegations against anybody. Is it in line with... We have laws governing here. This is not a state of nature where anybody can just act anyhow. We all have surrendered our powers to the government. All of us surrendered our powers to the government. So the government have made laws. Through different arms, they have made laws that everybody should abide by. So if the Supreme Court, in their wisdom, who knows exactly what the letter and spirit of the Constitution, decide to give their judgment, it doesn't matter which camp it favors. The government at the national level will have no other way than to protect the sanctity of our laws.
Right.
So it doesn't matter who levels allegation that the federal government want to... the same federal government, are they not seeing what is happening, that someone somewhere, because he has immunity, is going against all the judgments so far? Why have they not acted? Because the matter is still pending in the court. And anything you do now will be sub judice. So they are just waiting for the final arbiter to give their judgment, and they will act.
Right. Very well.